Welcome to the Football for Kids podcast with me, Darren Rees. In this episode, we're going to be talking about one of football's biggest characters, a Swedish powerhouse, and a player who has played for some of the biggest and most powerful teams in the world. In this episode, we're going to be talking about Zlatan Ibrahimović. Before we go into your shout-outs and messages, I need to let you know that on Christmas Eve, there will be the Football for Kids Christmas quiz released for you to listen and play along to. The quiz has football questions and Christmas questions, so everyone you are spending Christmas with can get involved. So make sure you remind your adults on Christmas or Boxing Day or whenever it is you're spending time with your family that they've got to do the Football for Kids quiz at some point. Now, before we get into the shout-outs and messages, I need to say a massive happy birthday to Grayson, who, on Boxing Day, the 26th of December, will be turning 6 years old. Grayson plays for Moorlands in Glasgow. He is football mad and listens to the podcast every night before bed. His favourite players are David Beckham and Jack Grealish. Well, Grayson Blaney, a massive shout out to you. A huge happy birthday for Boxing Day, the 26th of December. I hope you have a really, really fantastic birthday, a lovely Christmas, and everything else which goes with it. The first of your messages says, "Hi Darren, my name is Blake. I'm 8 years old and I really enjoy your podcast. Please can you make an episode about Joao Felix? The Kevin De Bruyne episode was amazing, but I'm a Chelsea fan, so please make one about Felix as well. Thank you, from Blake." Well, Blake, a massive shout out to you and thank you for being a listener of the podcast. And don't you worry, your request has gone on to the very, 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 very long list of episodes which I need to make. And it's very likely you'll hear that episode at some point in the first half of 2024 because there are going to be more episodes than ever. The next one says, "Hi Darren, my name is Roger. I live in the land of the Scots and I'm 5 years old. I'm a massive Tranmere Rovers fan. I play for Bonnyrigg under 7s. I'm so good at football. My dad thinks I could be even better than you. Please can you do a shout out to my dog who is also called Darren? Please can you do an episode on John McFadden? Thanks." Well, Roger, a huge shout out to you, and your dad is probably right because I got to tell you, I wasn't very good at football when I used to play football, but I definitely enjoyed myself, and that is the most important thing. And the penultimate shout out on this episode goes to Harry, aged 8, Jerry, aged 6, and Mark, aged 3. Harry, Jerry and Mark are probably a little bit older now because it was all the way back in May when you sent this message, but they love listening to the podcast every night with their mum Orla. They love collecting football trading cards and talk about football all day, and they learn so much from the podcast. Their favourite episode has been on Messi, and they would love to hear one about Roy Keane as well. So a massive shout out to you lot, Harry, Jerry and Mark, and of course to your mum Orla. Now the final message before we get into the final proper episode of 2023 says, "Hi Darren, my name is Ruben and my brother is Tobias and we play at Nork Park Rangers. We love your podcast lots and listen before bed. I'm a City fan and Tobias is a Chelsea fan. I would love an episode about Edison or one on Manchester City. My brother would like to know all about Ruben Loftus-Cheek. Thank you for all of your episodes. We love to learn about football." And they finished their episode with the biggest that we've had in a long time. Well, you two, a massive shout out to you, and hopefully you've had a chance to listen to the episode which I did on Edison. And if you're super listeners, you might have heard the episode on Manchester City. Okay, it's time to get into the episode about Zlatan Ibrahimović. Zlatan Ibrahimović was born in Sweden in October 1981. Zlatan had a tough upbringing and wasn't surrounded by the love and care that he could have been. When he was younger, playing football with some local kids, the football got stuck in the tree. Zlatan climbed on a shipping container to try and get the football out of a tree. Afterwards, he fell off from a height and cut his head open. When he got home, his mother was mad at him and told him that he'd ruined his clothes because they were covered in the blood from his head. This was one of many instances where Zlatan would face a furious mother who would often treat him in a particular way. Zlatan had it tough when he was growing up. His dad would tell him that he would be coming to watch him in football training, but he would rarely ever turn up. Zlatan would be waiting for his dad to pick him up from training, but he wouldn't appear, leaving him at a young age to walk home alone. Eventually, Zlatan got sent to live with his dad as his mother wasn't coping. Things weren't so easy living with his dad, and Zlatan would be constantly hungry, and the fridge and cupboards would barely have any food in him, and his father wasn't interested in his football. When Zlatan played for FBK Balkan when he was younger, he sped home excited to tell his dad about the goals that he'd scored and how well it went for him. His dad told him to shut up and that he wasn't interested in the slightest. Because of how tough things were for Zlatan, he rebelled and became a problematic child in school, and he was constantly being told off by the teachers and in the head teacher's office. Zlatan was inspired by the likes of Bruce Lee, the actor and martial artist when he was younger, also Muhammad Ali, the greatest boxer who ever lived. He would watch them on the TV and he had posters of them in his room. It wasn't martial arts or boxing that he was going to have a future in though, it was football. And when he played a game with his team, FBK Balkan, he scored 8 amazing goals and was spotted by a scout from one of the top Swedish teams, Malmo, and he was sent there on a trial. Zlatan made it into the squad and spent some time in the youth system before making it as a senior player, making 40 appearances. When he was at the club, he was always getting himself into trouble and had challenges controlling his anger. He put a teammate in hospital and was constantly up to mischief. There was a time when the coach of the team he was playing in sent him and the rest of the team on a long distance run to improve their fitness. Zlatan jumped on a bus and waited for everyone else to get to the end, and then he rejoined the run and run past everyone, making himself look like he was the fittest in the team. Zlatan created enemies at the club he was playing at, and things got so bad that other players in the team created something called a petition, which is where people sign something if they agree with it. The petition was to get rid of Zlatan from the team, and many of the players signed it. When the coach found the petition off the wall in the team's changing rooms, he went mad and said that he makes the decisions on who does and who doesn't play in the team, not them. He was absolutely furious. Zlatan eventually ended up playing for the Dutch side Ajax, but he was desperate to play for a bigger club. An opportunity came up for a meeting with the big bosses at the Italian super club Juventus. Zlatan went to a meeting, but he was told they didn't think he was quite ready yet. So, Zlatan continued playing at Ajax to prove how good he was. And there was one game in particular that he was so good, so skillful, and so exciting that the Juventus boss called his agent and said that they wanted to sign him. Zlatan Ibrahimović signed with Juventus, and in his first season, he was completely unstoppable. He scored 16 amazing goals and was voted as the Serie A Foreign Footballer of the Year. The season after that, Zlatan went from one Italian club to another when he joined Inter Milan. Inter paid around €25 million for him. They got their money's worth, as he was sensational, scoring over 50 brilliant goals, helping the club win the Italian top division on 3 separate occasions. In his final season with the club, not only did he win the league with Inter, but he was also the league's top scorer and won Best Foreign Footballer again and Overall Footballer of the Year. Like all top footballers and those that have stood out in the sport over the years, Zlatan has moved about a bit, and his next stop would be Barcelona. Then he went to AC Milan, then he went to PSG, then he went to Manchester United, then he went to LA Galaxy, and then he went back to AC Milan. Over the many years and the many clubs, Zlatan has scored some of the most tremendous goals. There are 3 that I need to mention. You can go and have a look at them at a later date. The first one I need to mention is his goal for Ajax on the 22nd of August, all the way back in 2004. Zlatan received the ball 20 yards out from the 18-yard box. He skilled one player, then another, then he skilled another player, and then another, and then he skilled another player, and then another, and then he skilled the keeper, sending the keeper flying the opposite direction he was going, and then put the ball into the back of the net. It was very Diego Maradona, and it was a sensational goal. The next one was on the 31st of March 2018 when he made his debut in the American Soccer League for LA Galaxy. From over 40 yards out, he half volleyed the ball and lobbed it over the keeper. The American crowd and the players of LA Galaxy went completely crazy, and the celebrations went on for a good 5 minutes. The referee took some going to get the game going again. Even the opposition were secretly clapping and truly astonished with how good his goal was. The final club goal which I need to tell you about was so very Ibrahimovic. October 4th, 2008. Zlatan was playing for Inter Milan. He was in the box, the ball came flying into the box, and in true Zlatan style, he did what I can only describe as a backheel volley. The ball hit the back of the net. And if anyone listening to this does any form of martial arts, it was like a reverse round kick or a hook kick, and it was truly incredible. In total, Zlatan ended up making 10 different moves as a senior player, and his club career stretched over 24 years, which is quite simply remarkable. He played nearly 900 games of football as a club player. He scored over 500 club goals. He won trophies and awards in the Netherlands, in Italy, in England and in Spain. He was nominated for the Ballon d'Or 11 times, and he represented his country of Sweden for 22 years, playing over 120 international games as an international player. Oh, and there is one goal that he scored which tops the other three I mentioned earlier, and unfortunately it was against England, and my goodness can I remember it well. Sweden versus England. In the dying moments of extra time, the ball ended up quite high in the air, and from about 30 yards out, Zlatan knows that England's keeper Joe Hart is well and truly off his line, and he decides he's going to bicycle kick it, lobbing the keeper in the process to seal the game for Sweden. I remember watching it on the television like it was yesterday. Because of his successes and the impact which he had on the sport, there are now huge pieces of art in Sweden and in other European countries on buildings and in buildings of him. There are humongous statues and millions of memories of his fantastic footballing moments. Zlatan Ibrahimović isn't everyone's cup of tea, but I think the one thing we can learn from his story is that everyone has a story. And Zlatan probably acted in a certain way because of how tough some parts of his story were. I hope that you've enjoyed listening and learning about probably Sweden's greatest player and one of the greatest players that ever stepped foot on a football pitch. So remember, if you know someone who loves football just as much as you do, then please tell them about Football for Kids. And whether you're playing football soon, watching it on the telly or pitch side, I hope that you enjoy the game. See you next time.